So for those of you who are paying attention to my last videos, anyway, so here's the antenna. So the antenna goes right there. Yay! Anywho, fantastic. Anyway, the last one before Christmas, and the last one of the 3-digit sets, and the last one that I'm going to do for a long time. We'll see. We see how long that holds. The 928, or for those in other parts of the world, the 497. I call it the 928 because it says 928 right inside of the ship. I honestly can't remember. The 928 was a European version. The American version was the 497. I've always called it the 928 because that's what it says on the side of the ship. So this is the 497, and for those of you not on this continent, it's 928. Whatever. Anywho, the Galaxy Explorer. We'll just call it that. I don't want this to go long. I really don't. So if you go on Lugnet, possibly right now, and you go into, there's a place where you can go in the top rated sets of all time when people used to hang out in Lugnet. The top rated sets of all time, you would see that the 497/928 is in the top, I don't know, the top 10, top 5. It was number 1 for the longest time. But I don't believe it is now. I didn't check before I made the video. But the 928 is one of the most coveted sets of all time if you want to collect historic Lego. And I know this because I've been collecting them. It is such a fantastic set. And I've gone in some of my stories, and I don't want to repeat myself in some of those stories, but I'm sure I'm going to go into some stories, and you've probably heard them before. But the actual review, let's get into that, and I'm sure the stories will follow. The 928 did not come out in 1978, from my recollection, from my understanding. The 924 came out in 1978, and the 926 that I just did, and a few other smaller ones. From what I was told, and again, I could be just blowing smoke, the Lego company, after the success of, like, these things must have been planned for pre-1977. Lego doesn't, no company is going to come up and spool up boxes and instructions and sets and testing and whatever within 1 year. These things are designed before, like 2 or 3 years. They go from a drawing board to a progression to the store shelves. That's not 6 months, that's years. So in 1978, which is what my hat says, wherever I put it, in Space in 78, my Lego hat, my Lego Classic Space hat, which I don't see right now, but it's in here. I'm cleaning up. So the Lego company says, we have these sets on the books that we're planning on releasing into production in 1979. That's when that was the scheduled release for all the 3-digit sets, 1979. Somebody said somewhere, hey, Christmas is coming up in 1978. Star Wars is still a huge hit. Star Wars, again, for those of you kids who are younger than me, might not know this, but there's a thing called movie theaters. Okay, you know movie theaters. But you also know, anybody younger than 40 years old, that movies don't stay in the theaters too long because it goes on the streaming services, or it goes back in the day on VCRs and DVDs and whatever. But back in 1977, in May, when Star Wars was released, nobody owned a VCR. There was no PVRs. There was no streaming services. There was nothing. Star Wars, and I don't know the exact number, Star Wars was in the theater, in the movie theater, for 1.5 years, minimum, playing in a lot of theaters. Star Wars in the theater. Back to the Future made it over 1 year in the theater. But Star Wars 1977 in the theater, from May of 77 into 1978. And then Kenner started releasing all their Star Wars sets. And that was a huge, money making, because Star Wars was a massive hit back in 1977. And Lego says, we got to jump on this revenue stream. And what do we got? Oh, wait, we're releasing a classic space sets next year in 1979. Wait, Are they ready? Are some ready? Can we get anything on the store shelves before Christmas of 1978? Again, this is a story I was told. So what happens then is that I think half of them were released in 1978. The 924, I believe, was released in 1978. The 926, a couple of smaller ones released in 1978, and the rest were released after Christmas and into 1979. This one was not released until 1979. That's why they say the 924 is older than the 928. But in the grand scheme of things, they were developed at the same time. It's just because of that Star Wars thing, which changed the world. This was released after the 924. Again, I could 100% be wrong, but I lived through it. I was 10 or 11, 12, and I remember seeing the 924 in the stores and not this guy. But anyway, so the 928, how many pieces was that? Let me just get back there. It has brackets around it, so I guess it's a approximation 325 pieces. I never counted. Came out in 1979, according to Bricklink. Or not Bricklink, to Piron, which is fine. I was 12, and my friends got this one for Christmas, and I got the 918 for Christmas. So it is what it is. The good part about it is it came with 2 base plates, one a landing pad and one a crater plate. It came with a little building for whatever, and the actual Galaxy Explorer itself, after all these years, still holds up for me. It doesn't hold up for some other people, but it still holds up for me. And the reason why it holds up, it could be nostalgia. I love building this thing. I have a few. I won't go into how many I have, but I have a few. I think it looks exactly like it's supposed to, in a classic space kind of way. The handles, the 1x2 with handles, are the original handles, so they're parallel to the brick, and they're thicker and they're longer than the handles that came out after in 1980. The LL928 is printed on the side. It had the nice little logo on the front. Again, exactly the same as the 924 and the 918. All 3 of them had the printed brick and the logo on the front. The 924 and the 928 have this in common. They had 2 windshields, whereas the 918 only had 1, which is fine. This thing would sit 2 people inside. There's none in here. It's just odd. I'm missing guys. And then they put another windshield on top, because in the back of this guy, we'll open him up. Hopefully the guy doesn't fall out. There's a vehicle that fits fully in the back. And so this thing lowers, and then this thing drives out. And then there's this guy. And again, I just mentioned this. This is exactly the same vehicle that's in the 924, except there's no antenna on it because the antenna wouldn't fit in there. It's also the same vehicle that was in the 886, again, without the antenna. But whatever. I liked it because it was cohesive. So big thrusters on the bottom, which I thought was really cool to be in universe, because you have to lift this massive ship off the ground when it's taking off vertically, because that's what it would do. There's no landing strip, there's no landing gear on here. It'd be like this is like the Eagle in Space 1999. It would lift straight off. Whoops, this is me. This is the one deficiency with the landing gear. But you'd have to have all the thrusters to lift off the ground. So this thing came with 7 of these 4x4x2 thrusters, rocket thrusters, 7 of them. So if you're trying to recreate it, you need 7 of them. I created this one with that guy. That's not actually error specific. Let me see if I have, no, yeah, there. I have error specific ones on here. The thrusters that came in the set originally would not have had the axle hole in it, because the axle hole was not there until like 1982 or maybe 1982. The original sets did not have the axle holes, which is something I'm glad they added, because they started making those mini rockets like in the Alpha 1 and everywhere else, and those rockets would fall apart pretty easy. The other thing is it came with a 4x10 trans yellow plate. And again, 3 windshields, as I mentioned, 1x4s in the back here. 1x4 there, 1x6 there. So lots of trans yellow. And again, if you look at the building, this also has trans yellow in the back, and it has, let me get this guy away, it has some controls in there. It doesn't have the inverted controls like that came in the 926 that we just talked about, but it still has controls in there. And it came with this nice little tower in the back with the big, huge radar dish. And they put the green pip on there, the 1x1 round trans green round brick, which we liked. Trust me, a lot of classic space fans, when they build radar dishes, there's always a trans green piece in there, because half the sets in the Lego back in the classic space had the green thing there. Fantastic. It came with an antenna, can't go wrong there. It came with the logo on each side, can't go wrong there. And speaking of logos, they had the logo here. So there was 4 logo bricks, 1x2 bricks in this set. There was 2 down arrows in this set. There was 2 1x4 with the vertical stripes in this set. There was the 928 brick in this set. There was this set. I mean, the 3x6 printed piece. Fantastic printed. The consoles in there. The two blue consoles, and then there's 2 gray consoles right in here, printed. Fantastic, utterly fantastic. One of the small little cute little things is they have these little 1x3 doors in the side. Now what they're used for, whatever. So in the end, it's a really good set. And again, one of the things I've always talked about, because people were saying, "Oh, Dave, you have so many Galaxy Explorers." Yes, I do have Galaxy Explorers, but then again, I worked at it with my little eBay thing. But most of this set, most of the actual ship, is basic pieces, basic brick and basic plates. And so if you take off all the unique pieces, like the printed pieces and the trans yellow pieces, let's see, I'm going to talk about that in a sec too. You would have your own 1x6 or lots of 1x8 blue bricks in there, by the way, that you would just order the parts off of Bricklink right now and be able to build a Galaxy Explorer with the parts that you have on hand, plus the printed parts that you get off of Bricklink, and you would be paying cheaper than buying the set off of a collector. So I can't say that it's very, very expensive to get a Galaxy Explorer, at least to have one in your inventory, because you can just source the parts that are unique to the Galaxy Explorer, or not necessarily unique, but very, very rare, and the rest of the parts you should already have. Right? Now, if you again, the old grays has disappeared, and that was Blay, but even sourcing gray 1x4 plates and 2x8 plates, and maybe the expensive ones would be the 6x12 plates on the bottom here, because you need a few of those, and the 4x12s. But I'm not saying they're ubiquitous, but there's lots of them. Again, I never went on Bricklink to see what the price guide shows, but most of us collectors have those parts anyway. And so I don't think it's in a cost-effective measure, just get the unique parts you don't have from Bricklink and then just build one if you want one. If you want to be like me back in the day, where I went on eBay and bid $75 per Galaxy Explorer for the entire year, and I got, I bid, as they say, over 100 times on, 100 different lots, and I won 12 of them. I got 12 Galaxy Explorers one year, and I paid up to $75 a piece. Mostly $70, but it's, I did get cheaper, and so and it was fun. It was a nice little conversation piece, and mostly it was just usually the ship, not the rest of it. But sometimes I got the base plates in the building. It is, I don't know. I don't want to keep on talking about it and just boring you people. So the one thing that does happen back in the day is that the classic space trans colored pieces, especially the 1x1s, they break very easy. They really break. They get brittle with age, and that one is brittle. That one has been broken now. I'm gonna leave it there for now. I might try to put a little dab of glue. I mean, I do have a bunch of 1x1 green trans green plates, but still, it's sad when I see that. The one last thing, and it's not a huge thing, but it's a little thing. This base plate, I'm not sure if it's unique, because I mentioned there's at least 3 different styles of these original base plates, but this is one I used here. But on the Galaxy Explorer, and only the Galaxy Explorer, they went 4 red pips on the side. That's not what I use in the layout. I use the red, green, red, trans red, trans green, trans red that they had with the 6980 Galaxy Commander for all my landing pads, because I like that better. I like the green in the middle. And also, when I mentioned when we did the Alpha Centauri Blacktron 2, they used exactly the same color scheme. It's like they used the 1x1 trans red and trans green cones, round cones instead of the round bricks. But it was still trans red, trans green, trans red on the side. I do like that better than this one. This is not a deficiency. This is what they did at the time with the Ford trans red. But I'm glad they swapped over to red, green, red all the way around. So you get the set, you get a base plate, a landing pad, and you get a crater plate. You get a little building, very, very cute, and you get the